everyone, welcome to Writer of the Week. Today we're here with Lacey Pruett, author of High Performance Detox, taking you off stage for Steps Towards Wholeness. Welcome, Lacey. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm really happy to be here.
So why are you so passionate about helping people detox from their high performance mindset? And is this a message everyone can relate to, or do you have a specific audience in mind?
Well, it's important to me because of the pain that I've been through in my life. Being a high performer isn't necessarily a bad thing, except when it's rooted in the opinions or the applause of others. So what happened to me early on, I learned what garnered a response that I liked, what garnered the applause, and I learned to do more of that. Well, over time, that really does it does a number on your confidence and your psyche, because you're thinking, oh, I can't mess up. I've got to do everything good. I've got to just be on stage all the time, and I've got to not mess up. Well, that's not a very human way to live your life, right? So about 25 years old, I hit what I consider my turning point in my life. I had a really difficult health situation that really took me out of the game of life. I got really sick, very fatigued, and I had to do a lot of work to work myself back up to a quality of life that I could be proud of, a quality of life where I was thriving. So now that I'm in this different place and I'm getting the most I can out of my life, when I look back, Melissa, I think, gosh, I wish I would have had somebody that I trusted say, hey, Lacey, step off stage. Remind me that, it's okay to mess up. It's okay to be human. It's okay to not get it right sometimes. It's okay to feel this way. And I just didn't have that. So the book, in part, is that it's that person that we wish we would have had at an early age, when we learned all of these different ways to be that really didn't align with who we really are.
And you've mentioned that we all have a stage for the various roles that we perform in life, and that you've learned how to be free from the expectations placed on you. Can you share how it helped you to see life as a stage and how you freed yourself to live according to your inner path?
Absolutely. You had asked who my target audience is and if this message does relate to everybody. My target audience is on the go, busy women like myself. Those are the women that I see. A lot of them don't have the message of that stepping off stage. They don't even look at life as a stage. They're just busy going to the next thing. Well, what's the next task? What do I need to do here? And nobody ever really sits and thinks, okay, how do I feel? And why do I feel this way? What I want to bring them with the book and with coaching is, step off stage. Let's realign with, who we really are in our heart. And let's figure out, how do we want to feel most of the time? So does this message relate to everybody though? Absolutely. I think the audience is very broad. What's going to determine who listens and where the good work happens is who's going to allow themselves to do the work. And it's hard work, Melissa. What I mean by that, it's a concept that isn't very welcoming for a lot of people. It's scary to look inside of you and what makes you tick and why do you feel the way you do. It's not easy work, and it could be challenging at times. I know for myself and my walk, there were days when I would start doing this what I call heart work inside. It's the hard work, but it's also heart work. And I would start doing the work. I would have to take a nap. It was fatiguing. I was exhausted. And giving yourself permission to walk the journey has to be a part of all of this effort. You can read the book, but you've got to allow yourself to let it saturate into your life. And what does it look like for you in your individual life?
So it sounds like what you're saying is some people use daily activities to avoid what's happening on the inside.
In my opinion, I meet a lot of women, and I see a lot of women mainly that just the goal is to keep themselves busy. If I'm busy, I'm successful. If I'm busy, I'm accomplished. If I'm busy, I don't have time to look inside and see why I am the way I am, why I feel the way I do, why things aren't vibrant in my life. Let me just keep going And hopefully one day it'll all net out as whatever we wanted to accomplish in life: success, family, careers. In the book, I describe different roles that we can have in life. A lot of people don't give themselves permission to live life by their own standards. I'll speak for me individually. I didn't. I got really good at living by everybody else's standards. You want this from me? Okay, I'll go do it. You want this performance? I'll go do it. This creates accolades. Well, let me do more of that and we'll get here. The first time I ever asked myself, who do I really want to be? What do I really want to do with my life? What really makes me feel good? I was already in my upper 20s, early 30s. And again, it's hard to look back sometimes because we do life a certain way and it's the best we know how at the time. So the sooner we can get through that awareness and some of the shame and judgment that we put on ourselves, the quicker we can get to, okay, well, let's go to this new normal where we can really rock it in life. And that's what I hope to do for more people with the book and with coaching. Just guide them through that journey. I think it's so important.
And in writing a book, authors go through many versions of the manuscript. What do you feel you were able to resolve and heal after putting pen to paper?
Gosh, Melissa, the first thing that comes to mind is self-worth. Unfortunately, I don't know that my self-worth was that high before I started on this journey of writing my own story. Stuff comes up when you put your life on paper with pen and you really look inward and figure out what you're all about and what really matters to you. There are some surprises, there's some pain, there's some new awareness. You can use it all for good, but I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I wrote some pages and I crumpled them up and I burned them because I really didn't want anybody else to know about some of my pain in my past, but even more so, it wasn't part of my story anymore. Once you do the awareness work, nobody really has to know. So writing your story is just as much for your audience as it is for you. So for people that are a little nervous about maybe writing down their story or writing down their deepest, darkest secrets, I say do the work, write down the information, and it doesn't have to go anywhere. You can maybe put it in a book if you see that there's some value for other people, but I say do it for yourself first. To answer your question, this journey of writing my book was very therapeutic for me. I would equate it to a couple of years of counseling. It was, you are your best teacher. So whether you believe that or not right now, it's truth. It's truth that I've lived out. It's truth that I've had counseling over. We're our own best teacher. So when the world tells you that you're supposed to do something, you're supposed to have some role in life, you're supposed to take care of certain people, really call them on the carpet, really take that to trial and figure out if their reality matches up within here. Does that sound right to you? And if it does, great. Go on living. You have a partner to go on living with. But if it doesn't, stop right then and really reassess. What are the roles in life I want, really? Who is it I want to be about? What am I trying to accomplish here? What is your passion, purpose, and what's going to bring you prosperity according to you?
I liked what you said about burning the pages because it's no longer part of your life story. I think that traditional therapy sometimes runs the risk of keeping us in the past versus empowering us because it brings back things and never actually resolves and lets go of them, depending on how it's done, though.
Absolutely agree with you. And one of the things I teach in my yoga classes is just letting that stuff go. So we have different ways we can do that. Some people call it cutting the cord, but you can call it whatever you want. What we're doing is removing that stuff that doesn't serve you anymore, removing that identity that's not yours to carry on anymore, removing that opinion that was probably never yours in the first place, but you heard it when you were 5 years old and it stuck. It stuck right here on your shoulder and you've been carrying it around, but it's not your reality. So you can do it different ways, breath work, yoga. There was a time when I ran for miles, just distance running. I didn't listen to any music. It was so detoxifying. It was almost as if I was running away from those pressures that society put on me, and I was running toward finding out who I really am. So therapeutic. And there's other ways to do that too, but it's definitely important to cut those cords.
In writing a book, one of the hopes is to connect with readers, to be seen, and to feel that they relate to what you're expressing. What are the various ways you've come into contact with readers and received their feedback? And is there one special moment that stands out?
Oh, I love hearing from readers. It's really interesting to hear how others receive your story and mainly what it means in their life. So I wrote my personal journey and my stories with my life, but my stories are my own. And I was nervous. I have a very unique background and unique stories. One of my concerns was that I wouldn't relate to anybody who does, I did pageantry at an early age. I was in competitions my whole life. I chose not to be a mom in this life. I chose to get married really late in life. I canceled 2 engagements. Those are just things that pop up right away when I think about my history, but they're unique details. And not a lot of people really can relate to those details, but guess what? They relate to the emotion. And that was powerful for me when I read my reviews, when I would get fan email, when I would hear from readers, and it's on Audible too now. So when I would hear from people that, were on a jog and they were listening to my story, it was really, I felt that's my accomplishment. I felt like I helped them in some small way. They would share different personal things about their life that were different than my stories, but they would say, when that happened to you, I felt it here in my life. And nobody ever gave me permission to let that go, to step off that stage. And they really appreciated this new concept, the new strategies that I share in the book. That's empowering. I think that for any writer, I think that's probably one of the reasons that we choose to publish, is that we want to, at our core, help people and try to be that person that coaches them to a better version of themselves.
And some people think books are old-fashioned and don't move at the current pace of life. What's your opinion on how we communicate and connect today?
Well, it's funny. Everything's so relative. According to what you believe. I am a book girl, obviously, tried and true. Does it move at the pace of our current life? Probably not, but with technology, we're able to, get books in a different way. My personal opinion is that I love feeling this hard copy book. I love that it can travel with me. I love that I can highlight it. I love that I can take notes. So for me, I think books have a place in this world. For a lot of people, though, they are antiquated. They are very old school. I think we do a good job of communicating in today's world. I don't think we do a good job of connecting anymore. And my hope is that we can start to meet each other where we're at. So for instance, with me being a more traditional communicator, I need to reach out, care enough to reach out to somebody who communicates in a different way than I do, but find a way to connect with them. And that's just something we have to continuously work on. But communication and connection is very different to me. So I think there's a place for physical books. I think there's a place for the Audible books. I think there's a place for Kindle. I would rather meet the audience where they're at, and let's focus on connecting better.
You have a great YouTube channel that features yoga with Lacey and some really fun videos, including neighbors yoga and kids yoga. It sounds like you have a unique angle. Can you tell us about the inspiration behind these and what you'd like them to bring to the viewer?
Absolutely. YouTube is it's been an interesting journey to me. I never would have said I was going to be online doing yoga on film. That's nothing that I ever thought I would be doing. The reason it mattered to me and the reason that I really squashed some of my insecurities and went out there is because of the misunderstandings of yoga, the misunderstandings of breath work, meditation. I wanted to bringing it to the people or the audiences that are out there, meet them where they're at to teach them. None of it's really scary. Meditation, yoga, sometimes I'll talk about my book on YouTube. It's principles that are they seem scary to some people, but I wanted to show them that it's not. It's very simple. All you need is really your body. I'm not even going to say you need a mat. You need a space in the world. You need the desire to want to improve yourself, mind, body, and spirit. And you start moving your body in a way that feels good, that makes sense to you. Now, with a guide of a yoga teacher, so you don't harm yourself. So it's been really fun, especially with the children, that to bring them some of these more peaceful self-care aspects of my practices right to their home. I think if children can start, if all of us could start at an earlier age to take care of our bodies, to take care of our minds, I think we're that much better of a human being in the future. And it's concepts that I didn't really welcome into my life. I didn't make time for until I was in my 30s. So the fact that children are coming to me and saying, I want to do yoga with you, Lacey, I want to meditate with you, it warms my heart, because I think that's what the world needs more of, is people identifying who they really are, looking inward, bettering themselves, and going out there to be better human beings. So if I can be a small part of that, yeah, I love having something like YouTube as a channel, as a voice to reach the people that are on YouTube.
Yeah, your kids' videos are so funny. I think there was one pose you were doing where you like reach behind you and see, is your foot back there? It was just so cute. It was for kids.
One thing I've learned with children is you've got to make it fun, and you've got to keep moving. In my opinion, I think a lot of people focus too much on what it looks like. If we could do yoga without any mirrors or any cameras, that would be the purest form of yoga, because it's a life force. It's a feeling. So if my tree pose doesn't look elegant, it shouldn't matter. It's your tree pose. You're moving your body in a way that feels therapeutic to you. Now, there are some things you want to do so you don't, hurt yourself, but I see mostly in society today that people are more interested in what it looks like than how it feels. So in my classes, I'll cue a lot. How are you feeling? What does this feel like to you? Go with what feels better. And it's very feely. My husband makes fun of me. He's like, you're so touchy-feely. You talk about feelings all the time. But I think they're really important. Our feelings tell us a lot about, what we're doing at the time. So if tree pose looks good, but it feels awful, well, that's going to harm you later in life.
We'd love to hear a bit about what you're currently most focused on and the books or projects you're most excited about.
Well, since the book was published back in 2018, I've really enjoyed hearing from the readers about what they liked best, how it related to their life, and the surprises that have come up are how it's related to men and also to teenagers. And so what I'd like to do, I'm really excited about a next project. I want to do a version of High Performance Detox for teens. And I also want to brainstorm a High Performance Detox for men, because I think where all of us come together, of course there's various differences between all of us, but where we come together are those emotions that I talk about, those feelings that I talk about. I guess that didn't occur to me when I was writing to my audience of busy women, that these concepts can work at any age and with men and women. So I'm excited for those two projects. And then with my yoga, I've really enjoyed bringing that new welcoming practice to more people who have never moved their bodies in this way, or some of them ever. They're just not exercisers. I've loved bringing this concept of mobility back to certain people. So I definitely want to grow that online presence with YouTube, or if something else comes down the pipe that I can reach more of an audience with, I want to entertain that too. I understand that not everybody can come into a live yoga class at a studio, nor do they want to. Like I said earlier, yoga is a feeling, it's an inside job. So that's sacred to me. If somebody wants to practice in the privacy of their own home, I want to be one of the guides that bring them this more inviting aspect of yoga. So I'm very excited about those 2-3 projects that are in the works right now.
Now it's time for Tweet of the Week, where we do a deep dive into your tweets and select one for you to tell us more about. However, in your case, there are 2 recent tweets that I'd like to focus on. You recently retweeted a quote by Joseph Campbell posted on Natural Awakenings. I don't think people are looking for the meaning of life so much as they're looking for the experience of being alive. Then you commented on their post, Truth. Can you elaborate on that?
I love that. I love that still. I think a lot of people go through life never having really lived. And that breaks my heart because for some of the reasons I've mentioned in the past, people don't find out what they're passionate about until later in life. They don't know or don't think about their purpose in life until later. Why not start getting people to think about those questions earlier so we can edit our everyday life to align with some of these things that really matter to us? I think that is just great truth, because what the world needs now is people living their life, is people really out there living vibrantly. And I don't think that that happens with every person, unfortunately. But I do think that we're making some advances. I think people are having some really good conversations. I think more of the audience of self-care awareness. I think more, I think it's getting out there more. So all we can do is just keep speaking our truth, keep loving on people where they're at, and hopefully bring more people to that vibrant life that's waiting for them.
And then on March 10th, you tweeted, Aerial yoga has expanded my mat practice and opened up my hamstrings. The fun mixed with challenge is the best way to kick your fitness up a notch or foot or two. Can you tell us more about aerial yoga? And what immediately comes to mind is, how do you stay in the fabric slings or hammocks and not fall out as you do the poses? And what are the benefits as compared to traditional yoga?
I love it. Yeah, aerial has been a great awareness, just a great addition to my life. And it's funny, it came from I was having, if I can get personal for a little bit, I was having a challenging time in my own life. And it was, I was doing a lot of that heart work I was talking about earlier. And it just, everything was difficult. Everything was hard. Everything was challenging. And I woke up one day thinking, I've got to start having way more fun. How can I make even this difficult work, how can I make it more fun? Because that's one of my core values in life. I want to make it fun. It's got to be fun. So I just kept thinking, okay, how can I create more fun? Well, I love yoga, and mat yoga has so many benefits. But there's this idea that I could elevate and work against gravity, lighten up a little bit, go flying through the air. Yeah, let's do that. And it was a really easy decision to make, because I thought, yeah, I want to do more of that. Well, when I got practicing with aerial yoga, it's funny, it's not as easy as it looks. It looks so graceful and peaceful, and it is. But one thing that really just knocked me upside the head was how much you have to trust yourself. You have to trust the silks they're secure, but they're still, picture sheets. You're just running around, flying around in sheets. It's a piece of fabric, but you also have to trust yourself that you're not going to let yourself fall. So there's this one time that comes to mind. It was my first inversion. So an inversion is any time your head is below your feet. So you can invert back, you can invert forward, but your head's going to be below your feet. Seems fun, right? It almost brought me to tears the first class I inverted, because I had to, at a certain point, let go and trust that I was secure in the fabric. I had to let go and trust that my head's not going to hit the floor. And it took a while. I'm human. But once I did it, the release of that was amazing. And I was craving more. And it also aligned with my everyday life, that you've got to trust yourself with everything. You've got to go, you do that inside work, you do that internal work, trust your intuition. We really are our best teacher. And aerial yoga was a part of that journey for me as well. And yes, it is way more fun.
How high are you off the floor when you do the inversion?
You're not that far up. It depends on how high you climb. So the idea is for the silk to hit you at your hip area. That's so if you were doing, say you were doing downward facing dog over the silk, you'd be able to put your hands on the mat, put your feet on the mat. So it's not that high up off the floor. What matters though is you can start climbing up the silk. I know it sounds crazy, but that's where you get your strength and your core strength. You're pulling yourself up. So you can go, I guess you can go as high as you want. I've never gone up higher than 8 feet. That's my, we're in a studio. That's kind of my mode of work there. But you could probably, there's a thing called aerial arts, and I guarantee you they get a lot higher than that too. I've just never done it. But yeah, it's up to you, your core strength, and how high you want to go.
McKenna recently reviewed High Performance Detox on Amazon, saying, "Every high performer needs this book. I'm one of those women who loves to excel at everything I do. In the past, this brought me a lot of success and my fair share of burnout. This book provides a roadmap for high performers to take a temporary pause and step off stage in order to come back stronger than ever, with the kind of energy and clarity you need to truly succeed over the long term. The steps are simple and easy to follow. I read it in one sitting and used what I learned every day. Do yourself a favor and buy this book. You won't regret it." And we're going to end with you reading an excerpt. Can you set the scene for us?
Absolutely. This is going to be at the beginning part of the book where I explain how life is a stage. And it goes into kind of why we get ourselves into these predicaments where we may not feel our best. We may be hitting a transitional point in our life, but it's because we've learned certain concepts earlier in our life that just aren't working anymore with our truth. I feel most of us are taught at a young age to consider others before ourselves. This seems harmless and sounds like an appropriate way to be until it's unhealthy. How could taking care of others and putting others first be unhealthy? When you ignore your basic needs and when you forget to replenish what you've taken from yourself to give to others, there are times to be selfish, and maintaining one's well-being is one of those times. If you continue to give and give to an audience, you're never replenished. Look at the numerous celebrities and professional sports figures who have fallen ill, been injured, or have turned to unhealthy coping solutions simply to perform for the audience without closing the curtains and recuperating backstage. Even if some are truly working in their passion, if the performance demand outweighs the replenishment supply, they run into trouble. We're not meant to live on stage indefinitely, yet so much of current society demands that we do live in fight or flight mode and never step off stage. Most of childhood is made up of a series of rules to help others feel comfortable in our presence. We learn what's appropriate behavior, and while this is necessary for basic human function, nobody acknowledges the need to communicate with the child about how or why. Because mom and dad said so. It worked, or maybe it didn't, for much of history. However, I'm challenging this perspective now after personal experiences with shame, inappropriate relationships, and emotional abuse. If you do any deep study into why you are the way you are, you've learned that most of what makes you tick stems from childhood or young adulthood. It's tempting to place the blame on other caretakers in your life at the time. However, trauma recovery will teach you to own who you are and where you've been. Things that happened to you in the past usually have nothing to do with you, but rather adults doing the best they could at the time. I like to say even now, they just didn't know any better. Through spiritual awareness, you'll realize that they aren't the problem. How you perceive and use what happens to you in life is the key to healing. You learn at an early age what garners applause and what doesn't from adults in your life. You learn to do more of what generates the applause. And depending on when boundaries are introduced to your life, you do learn to close the curtain. When was the last time somebody asked you how you felt about something? As an adult, I love that open-ended question, as it brings authentic exchange and improved relationship. It brings human connection, something the world, the busy, hectic, fight or flight world we live in, needs more of. We usually don't clue into our true feelings and desires until later down the road, usually after some type of pain. I remember being sad as a child only to have mom and dad say one of three things to me. It's not that bad. Shake it off. You'll be fine. Nobody had the time to explain why I was sad or ask me to tell them about it or analyze the situation at all. They were right. In hindsight, it wasn't that bad. I was able to shake it off and move on, and I was fine several minutes later. However, digging deeper, I learned to squash my emotions and table the feeling sensations I got occasionally, especially if they were negative in nature. Continuing to move through life at an aggressive pace, checking off the to-do lists, and it became easy to never make time to consider how I felt. I noticed people around me were always fine. So when I wasn't fine, I felt a little broken. Most of our first lessons are to play a role for others' approval and applause. If others are happy with us, we did good. If someone is disappointed, we need to get our act together. Carried over into young adult and adult life, we continue to make decisions based on how other people want us to be, other people's desires instead of our own.
High Performance Detox is available on Amazon, and you can learn more about Lacey at her website, laceypruett.com. Make sure to check out her YouTube channel, and you can also sign up for her newsletter. You can find links to all of these in the description below. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise.